Hi, my name is Buzz Feiten, and you've been listening to a guitar equipped with SuperNova redesigned hardware, future vintage hardware is like what we like to call it. And as you may have noticed, the guitars play really pleasantly in tune. They sound fantastic, in my opinion. They're really fun to play. They inspire creativity. They remove the obstacles that you often find, especially with guitars, regarding tuning and regarding tone. Some time ago, I noticed that all of the guitars that I played, if it was the Fender style design or the Gibson style design, which are two very specific categories of guitar design, and those are the two main designs also, has some serious deficiencies, especially in the area of bridge design, tuner design, those two areas especially. That the guitars either sounded bad because of the poor bridge design, or they didn't play in tune. So a while ago I became somewhat obsessed with the idea of improving these basic designs, which have been around since the late 1940s. There had been a lot of cosmetic improvements, a lot of sort of fluffy kind of appearance changes to these designs, but nothing major, no fundamental redesign of the way they work. And in the process, I discovered sort of two main areas of deficiency, and the first was tuning. I realized that, and also this was not my first experience with tuning. I have an alternate method of tuning and intonating electric guitars, and actually acoustic guitars as well, called the Buzz Feiten tuning system, that I was able to successfully license to over 100 companies back in 1994, and became incorporated by sort of some mainstream tuner manufacturers and so on and so forth, and is now also being taught in the world's top lutherie schools, Brian Gallup School of Lutherie and others. In any case, I realized that I just wasn't happy with the way these hardware pieces were performing, so I started to redesign them. And came up with the idea of marrying the best of the vintage hardware, because there's something very desirable about the simplicity of the vintage hardware. It was usually very simple. There were very few moving parts, and as a result, they often sounded good but were horribly out of tune. So that led to a series of improvements in standard bridge manufacturing that made them play better in tune, but you suffered a huge tone penalty because the bridges became much more complicated, more moving parts, etc., etc. So I became obsessed with the idea of future vintage. I'd like to give you a bit of history here. The bridge shown here is the original design, designed by Leo Fender for Fender guitars back in the late 1940s. And as you can see here, there's 3 dual saddles that go on to this bridge, and each saddle holds 2 strings. Now, obviously, it's not possible to adjust the intonation on this type of bridge with any accuracy at all, because when you adjust the intonation on one string, it also adjusts the intonation on the second string. So this design, although it sounded great, was really terribly flawed in that the intonation was just terrible. So it evolved into a more sophisticated type of design, which is the 6 individual saddles on a base plate design, brought into use in the early 1960s, and that design was definitely better regarding intonation. However, because the saddle had to be stabilized, as you can see here, there are 2 height adjustment screws for each saddle. There's only one saddle installed on this bridge, but as you can see there are 2 height adjustment screws. Now, what happens is, while you're playing, one of those screws usually backs itself out through vibration, so that whole saddle is really resting on a tiny edge of one screw, which is just incredibly inefficient. So I designed a really, we believe, is truly revolutionary bridge that replaces that design with a single height adjustment screw. As you can see here, each saddle has only one height adjustment screw, and that's made possible by some very precise parts that rest in a slot on the base plate, and the end of each screw is machined into a pin, which fits very tightly into a slotted tab that rides in a slot. That prevents the saddle from tipping over, and it also increases the surface area, the contact area of the saddle to the base plate by an exponential number. It's just a huge increase in sound transfer. So we believe that this bridge can also be retrofit to existing guitars. So not only the benefit in terms of the art of lutherie is significant, we feel, but also commercially there's just an enormous potential here for this particular bridge. The heart and soul of any guitar is the bridge. This is a SuperNova prototype under construction. As you can see here, it features a bridge tailpiece wraparound combo with some technology that's never been seen before. The whole bridge locks onto the body of the guitar by these special mounting posts that are entirely top adjustable. As you can see, there's a cap, which is actually an Allen, a hex wrench. It's similar to just a regular nut that you tighten on a bolt, except it's domed. And in the center of that dome, you can see a female Allen receptacle. That Allen wrench right there adjusts the height of the post above the body of the guitar. Then the hex wrench access on the cap allows you to tighten the whole bridge onto the body of the guitar. That's never been done before. And it allows the designer to use this type of bridge on a bolt-on guitar, which has also never been done before. Typically, these bridges are only found on set neck type of guitars like Gibson or Paul Reed Smith. SuperNova guitars feature some revolutionary hardware, and this last piece of hardware that I'm going to show you is something that is unique, and it solves a problem in a way that I believe is pretty elegant. Back in the early 1950s, Gibson was making guitars with a headstock that was shaped similar to this one, except the tuners were placed around the perimeter of the headstock shape, not in the center like this. And that's been well documented that particular design created all kinds of problems with string breakage, with tuning instability, because the strings left the nut and would go off at an angle to the tuning key, the tuner that were placed at the edge of the perimeter of the headstock. So I asked myself, well, why can't I place the body of the tuner in a triangular pattern that will give you that nice straight string pull that you see here? See, there's no angle of the strings coming off the nut. They proceed in a straight line directly to the tuner, which is the best possible situation for string vibration transfer and for tuning stability. So I designed a set of tuning key extenders that extend those tuning buttons that you can see at the edge of the headstock out by using a special sort of an insert that goes between the body of the tuner and the tuning key. Now, it works incredibly well, and as you can hear in the demonstrations, the guitars just sustain beautifully. The tuning is incredibly stable, and I'm very happy with it, and it also gives SuperNova a signature look.